You're here. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. We have one of the most respected trainers in the sport of boxing, Mr. Andre Rozier. Uncle Dre.
Yes. What's happening, nephew?
Nothing much. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Uncle Dre, how many world champions have you trained?
I have trained 8 world champions to date. And if things go according to schedule, I might be superseding some of the information we're going to talk about.
Right.
In the summer, I should have a 3-time world champion in Danny Jacobs.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. I wanted to start there because Danny Jacobs is the fighter that I associate you with most. You know, I know you from taking Danny Jacobs to fight Gennady Golovkin in 2017.
Right.
And then, of course, 2019 to fight Saul Canelo Alvarez.
Exactly.
But being from New York, Danny Jacobs would have this commercial when he would talk about there was a local hospital that helped him during his battle with cancer.
Exactly.
Now, were you with Danny Jacobs from the beginning of his career?
Just about the beginning. What happened, I'll tell you the story, is I was training Saddam Ali, and Victor Roundtree, God bless his soul, was working with Danny. Mm-hmm. We came together, and we started working with both of them at a very, very early age. I believe Danny was 14, and Saddam was about 12 or 13.
So, yes, you had him at a very young age. Uncle Dre, what was it like to have this fighter who's having success, who's a prospect, who's making his way through the sport, and then he gets this cancer diagnosis, and you watch his body be ravaged by cancer? Like how was that?
Well, I'll tell you, we had many a times, Danny would complain about his back hurting. Mm-hmm. And, you know, me being the coach and that father figure, I would tell him, stop crying, let's get to work. And he'd say, honestly, my back is really bothering me. Could you rub it? I said, I'm not going to keep rubbing your back constantly. You always want your back rubbed. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, when you put hindsight into place, that could have been the early stages of what he was about to endure with his fight with cancer.
So when you first got the news that it was indeed cancer, like, what was going through your mind?
I was shocked because it came so quickly. Mm-hmm. The prognosis was cancer. The operation was the next day. Mm-hmm. I mean, it moved so quickly. And the physicians were stating that if it didn't, or say he didn't go in when he did, mm-hmm. things could have gotten really, really bad for him, if not, the finality of it all. Sure. And he went in, he had surgery, and thank God he survived that, and he went through a long period of therapy and trying to rebuild himself. And he did that, and he kept stating along the way that I'm going to be a world champion again. So I was like, Danny, I'm just happy if you can.
You're alive.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I mean, when he first came to the gym, we had a gym over in Bay Ridge, Saddam's gym, and there were 2 levels to it. So you had to walk downstairs to actually get to the gym. And the kids all knew who Danny was, and they were like, Coach, Danny's upstairs. I said, Danny's not upstairs. Shut up, kids. Come on, get your butts down here. Let's get to work. Right. And lo and behold, they were all around him, helping him get down the stairs. He had on this huge brace from his neck to his I guess around his hip area. And he said, I came to work out.
Wow.
I said, what are you going to do? He said, I came to hit the bag. Wow. So I said, all right. I said, go in the mirror and do your usual shadow boxing. Let's get ready to rock. So he went in the mirror. He shadow boxed for like 2 rounds. The funniest shadow boxing you ever saw in your life, because he really couldn't do much. Then he got on the bag and he started touching the bag a little bit. Touch. 1 round of that, he said, oh, I'm tired now. I think that's it for today. So the kids helped him walk back up the stairs, and he started coming more and more and more, and he started growing, started rehabilitating, and one day he was ready to go.
Uncle Dre, I was reading something that, like, he was paralyzed for a minute, like he was reduced to a wheelchair.
Yes.
So like you said, the cancer is one thing to be alive,
Right.
but to make the climb back to the ring, like, that was really a miracle. His nickname, the Miracle Man.
Exactly. It was a step-by-step process. And I said to him, I said, well, we're happy that you're still here. That's the first thing. I don't care what you do after that. We're happy you're here. He said, no, I'm going to be a world champion again. I'm going to fight again. And I said, okay. And lo and behold, he pulled it off.
Yeah. So I mentioned already, 2019, you fight Saul Canelo Alvarez. This is a journey back from cancer. This is a fight against one of the best fighters in the world. Would you say that was the biggest fight of your career?
That was definitely the biggest fight. The fight with the cancer was the biggest fight,
Right.
Literally. Speaking from a sports perspective, the Canelo Alvarez fight was the biggest fight.
Is it the stakes, like the championships? Is it the purse? What makes it the biggest fight?
Well, it's the everything that was on the line. There were titles everywhere, and it was a lot to gain from it. Of course, the monetary value was incredible, but it was more the issues of stature and where you're going. These young men want to be in the Hall of Fame one day, and these are the fights that get you to the Hall of Fame. So there was a lot on the line.
Unfortunately, your fighter, Danny Jacobs, took the loss that night, a unanimous decision. To you, what was the story of that bout? Why did Danny Jacobs come up short?
Well, this was an odd time. Danny really didn't give 100% like he could have. And it's funny because now Danny is working like a beast. But when you saw what was going on, we had so many problems with everything going on with the camp, and it just wasn't gelling correctly. And as you can see by the scores at the end of the bout, it was very close. Danny needed to win 2-3 rounds and more than he had, and he would have been victorious. But those were really, really just disturbed moments in trying to prepare for something that would have changed everybody's life.
Uncle Dre, this is the biggest fight of both of you guys' career, and you saying you having issues leading up to the bout?
Well, we had major issues leading up to it. Unfortunately,
Like what?
well, we had people that came into to the training camp I didn't agree with, but I tried to, since this was that moment, I tried to meld everything together and make it work, but it didn't, unfortunately. It didn't, and that was it. So with that being said, there were so many obstacles and hurdles to get over. It was really, really hard, all the way to the end, to the point where we were actually fighting.
And you say Jacobs, like, is he the one that's responsible for bringing in these new people?
Yes.
Like, you guys should be like a well-oiled machine at this point, as long as you've been together. Why new faces now?
You would think. I mean, fighters are funny creatures.
Yeah.
They really are. You see it all the time. And I said, that was the moment that I said in my training career that if it doesn't go the way I need it to go, of course it's participation, but if it doesn't go the way I need it to go, then it's not going to go. I'm not going to ever put myself in a position where I feel uncomfortable or I feel that there's something that was brought to this table that wasn't necessary. And granted, it was a time when, leading up to it, I had some issues with my back. So initially it was like, we need to get you some help so you don't go back and you don't have a reoccurrence and then we lose you entirely, and I can't do that. But it went wayward, and unfortunately the end result was we came up short in the fight.
One last, with Danny Jacobs, you said he wasn't working as hard.
Right.
And that's interesting because he saw that the sport could be taken from him with cancer.
Right. You would think.
So, Uncle Dre, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to the bottom of like, because I heard you say that the camp wasn't the greatest, and I think this is the biggest moment. We should have the best camp. There should be no distractions at this moment. I'm trying to understand like what exactly took place prior to coming to that fight.
I honestly, other than the fact that the direction wasn't being followed, and you brought principles into our fold, into our crew that didn't help, made it a bad time, made it a really bad time. And I look back at it, it's like, with everything going on, the fight was 2 points apart. That's the worst part. I mean, I could see if he got blown out.
Right.
But he didn't give us 100%, and he was there. He was alive. He was a live dog in it. So when we had some falling outs after that, and actually Keith Conley, my little brother from another mother, his father, Pops Conley, he said, "You guys need to talk because you never know what will happen, and you don't want something to happen and then you haven't said a word about whatever."
Right. You guys spoke in, what was this, March? There was a meeting we saw, March 2021.
Right.
But the Canelo fight marked the end of you guys' working relationship for about 2 years.
Exactly.
How did you learn that that was going to be the end of you and Jacob working together?
Oh, I didn't. I never had spoken to Danny.
After the Canelo fight?
After the Canelo fight, the last words I said to him were, "You okay, son?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And the next day, which was Sunday, we all started going home. I hadn't heard from him for maybe about 2 years or so.
Did you reach out to him and say it was time to get back in the gym? Like,
A couple times I did try to get in contact with him, but they usually don't pick up the phone after a fight. I know that.
everybody got to go their separate ways.
It's a little protocol thing, but it was different. It was different. So, and then I'm hearing in between that, he was going to go in a different direction. I said, listen, if you want to go in a different direction, that's fine by me. But the least you could do is communicate that so that I would know who, what, where, why, and when. But you just don't drift off into the sunset without explaining something of this magnitude to the person who has been with you as long as I have.
Right. We heard that there were maybe some disputes financially after that fight.
Yeah, there were also, and it's just unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate that it had to go in those directions, and we had to get down to the nitty-gritty to make everything okay.
What was it? You weren't being compensated what you thought was fair?
Correctly, of course, yeah. And at that time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to say, I never said anything bad about Danny. I never did. That's not my nature anyway. I'm not going to put you out there. I'm not going to break you down. I'm just going to say what is. And some things are right and some aren't. And when you go about the business of not being right, then it has to be addressed, no matter what it might be.
So did you eventually get your compensation? Did you have to take it to a court system?
Well, no, we worked it out.
Okay.
We worked it out, so,
Okay.
and which was a little bit better for what eventually ensued in the meeting that we had to talk about what might have been wrong and everything else.
We saw you on the gram in March 2021, you and Danny Jacobs back together. You said his manager has said, yo, y'all need to talk.
Right.
What can you tell us about that meeting? How was it to see him?
Well, he came in. I was a little reluctant to show any emotion about it, but he came over and gave me a hug, and then we started sitting down and talking and hashing it out. These things should have never happened. And unfortunately, sometimes they come up, and you just have to work them out. It's just like any other relationship in life. You might have a falling out with a family member. You have to work it out. That's just the bottom line. And that's what we did. We worked it out, and I said, well, listen, you have this much time left for what you want to do. You want to be in the Hall of Fame? We're going to grind and dig, and that's the goal now. Let's do everything right. Everything will be cool. And since he came back, he's been really stellar. I mean, right now, I expect the best out of Danny. If he fights 3, 4, 5 more times, whatever it might be, I expect each of these performances to be explosive. Back to the way we were working when we were working. And hopefully, with that being said, he'll have his red carpet laid down for the Hall of Fame.
Excellent. Now, did you guys get into the nitty-gritty about that Canelo camp specifically, about what things you weren't happy about?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Without a doubt. I mean, he agreed, and there were other things like, okay, of course it's not a one-way street, but I always respond to what I'm given.
Yeah.
So if I'm given garbage, I'm going to respond with garbage. And we talked about that, and let's not go there and do that again. Let's do what we need to do. Let's get right. I said, just like Canelo and his trainer on Cloud 9, we should be on Cloud 9. That's the bottom line. So let's go.
Let's go. I was reading an article from that meeting, and I think you were quoted as saying you weren't sure if you guys would return to the ring. Like, that meeting was just about reconciling your differences.
Right.
But it seems like that's changed now. You guys are back.
Yeah. Well, the initial meeting was to clarify the negativity, get that out the way. That was a major request from Pops Connolly, and we honored that request. I always listen to my elders.
Yes.
At this point, I'm an elder to a lot of people, so I listen to my elders so I can impart the same knowledge and intellect into those who are under me. So his request was, it only makes sense because you don't go through life not speaking to the people that you have been living your life
Yeah.
with. So from that point on, I said, okay, Pops, this is for you.
That's good, man. It was great to see you guys back together. One last thing from the Canelo fight, which, again, Uncle Dre, I'm just a casual fan, so forgive me. Something unique about that fight, we all know the day before a match, there's a weigh-in.
Right.
But that fight, there was a stipulation in the contract where the gentleman will weigh in not only the day before, but the morning of the fight.
Right.
Experts say that Canelo Alvarez was concerned about Danny Jacobs' natural size advantage, so they wanted that stipulation in. Canelo made the weight.
Right.
Danny Jacobs did not make the weight, and he was subjected to a fine, which was close to $1 million. What do you think about that decision? How impactful was that?
Well, this was more of the fact of what was going on previously, building up to this very point. And if he was on point, it wouldn't have ever happened. But he wasn't, and I guess he said at that point, I'm not going to lose anymore. I'm done. I mean, it was a Canelo-ism. You know, Canelo set that in motion so that there'd be no type of advantages. And even with the way it went, it still wasn't an advantage. Now, if, like I said, if we were 100% loaded and the Glock was cocked, it would have been major trouble for Canelo. Wow. But unfortunately, we weren't, and that's what took place.
Wow. Well, I'm glad everything is ironed out, and I look forward to the future. Another fighter you have in your stable, a young man by the name of Edgar Balaga.
Right.
Edgar Balaga fought in, October?
Yes.
Against Marcelo Caceres.
Right.
He won the fight. He won on the decision, the eyeball test. Edgar Balaga won that fight.
Right.
But my elementary knowledge of the sport, especially for young men at that stage of their career, it's not only about winning, but it's about putting together an impressive performance to build momentum for the next fight, to garner interest for the next fight. Uncle Dre, what did you make of your fighter's performance that night?
Edgar started off really well in the bout. I'll tell you something. Edgar had 16 knockouts all in the first round before the 2 previous bouts. I still didn't know what Edgar would do in the ring under circumstances because he'd never gotten out of the first round. So to gauge and then to direct, you need to have some on time, some live action work going on. And what I started to see were the little issues that we needed to cover.
You saw that in training?
I saw it in training, but I really saw it in the fight.
Right. Okay.
What I did appreciate is that I've been working with Edgar on his jab and trying to get him to not load shots and be a little bit more rhythmic. And he's coming about. He used his jab very well in the fight. He could have used it more, but I don't know if the torn bicep was too much at that point in time for him to keep lacing that jab up and down and keep Marcellus off balance. But there were other things that he could have did instead of being so anxious. Mm-hmm. And boxing, when you have rounds to work with, no matter what, you have to continue to break your opponent down, steal his will, and close in on the crushing, making sure that you break him. If you get a shot in that gets him out of there, that's fine. But other than that, you have to continue to work to get your opponent in trouble. So those are some of the things that I saw that we have to work on. And to make him a better fighter, he's going to have to learn that patience, where to play shots, not to be over anxious, not to jump the gun. And, of course, it comes with time.
That was the first time in his career that he was knocked down.
Right.
Now, you mentioned it came out afterward that he had a torn bicep, but I don't think you guys knew that, like, directly after the fight.
No.
So what were the sentiments in the locker room? Because I know I was watching the fight with a few people that are big fans of Edgar, and the room seemed to be somewhat deflated because of what was deemed a lackluster performance. Max Kellerman was very critical of Edgar Balaga.
Right.
What was that locker room like?
Well, I don't worry about what critics say because they don't come to the gym and they don't train with us. Mm-hmm. They don't know what somebody might be going through. They don't know any of it. Mm-hmm. My job as a trainer is to make sure that my athlete is prepared as best as he or she can be for engagement in battle. So when we were done with the fight, we went back to the locker room and he said to me, he said, "Uncle, I'm so sorry." I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "I let you down." And that right there, that sort of was like a spear that went through my chest. I said, "You didn't let me down. You won the fight. You got a belt." I said, "You're learning. You're learning. No matter what anybody says, you're learning. And these are going to be the fights that give you a chance to pick up knowledge." Okay, you got knocked down. A lot of people got knocked down. You just have to make sure that you don't make the same mistake again. You got up, you kept working, and these are the things that are going to make you a better fighter. So he was a little downtrodden. I told him it's all right. But you're going to have people all over the place saying this, that. I don't care about those people. Because I know the next time he boxes, we're going to make sure he boxes so much better than he did in the previous bout that people tend to forget, oh, that might have been that day that you had some issues. Everybody does.
What do you think Edgar learned that night? What do you think is the biggest lesson he might have learned in that bout?
Not to drop his hands first and foremost. When he got caught in the middle of a transaction. He was trying to land. He threw a right hand and came across. The left hand was down, and he got caught. He got countered. So you can't throw it all away at one point in time. You got to make sure that defense is corresponding to offense. Your hands got to be right back in place, and you got to be on balance so that these things don't happen. A lot of those scenarios took place in that small period of time. He dropped his hands, his feet were not in the proper position, which made it easy for him to slip and go down, and those are things that he's going to learn from.
Edgar is 18-0 right now. 16 first round knockouts.
Right.
He had an amazing streak. I think it was 16 consecutive first round
Exactly.
knockouts. I heard somebody I respect say this. They wonder if Edgar fell in love with his power and then started neglecting his real boxing skills.
Well, I could honestly say that is one of the curses of the big punchers. We've dealt with it. I've had some of the biggest punchers in the game: Joe Green, Curtis Stevens, Brian Mongo. Big punchers, guys that hit you with one shot in it's sleepy time. They can fall in love with that because it's like in your mind, no matter how bad this fight is getting, I got that one hitter quitter, and I can get you out of there. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. So with that being said, you have to teach them that it's not about the power. It's about your capability, controlling the environment. The ring is your environment. You must control that every minute that you are in there working. So if you hit somebody with a shot and you don't get them out of there, it's not a reason to fall apart. Just get back to work and keep cutting down the tree.
Leading up to that fight, I started to see Edgar Balaga popping up all types of different places. He was at the Versus battle with Dipset and the Locks. And, you see him on social media with guys like rapper Fat Joe. He even had an interview on the Breakfast Club. His celebrity is growing. Prior to the fight, he was on social media. I think he made a $10,000 bet on himself, or maybe it was $100,000. I forget the value. I'm like, I know boxing, you got to be disciplined. You got to sell your story. What did you think of that visibility?
Well, myself, I don't like it. I don't like overexposing yourself. What it does is it brings a lot of negative attention. Yeah, you have people who do, but even those are fakesters because they're going to tell you they like it, but they're hating, and you don't know whatever else. I come from Brownsville.
Yes, sir.
So I know what it is. I have people that be at the corner, and you see them every day. And the one day they find out that, you started working and you got a check coming on Friday, them suckers are hiding behind the car, want to hit you upside your head and take your payroll. Right. So I know how it is. You hear people talking like that, but it's always something in the air that could not be right. So I don't like as it says, go up for glory. I don't like over glorifying what you do. You don't have to let everybody know your business. Just handle your business and everything else will be all right.
The sport of boxing is about selling yourself as a personality also. It's not just about skill.
Right.
So how do you find that balance? When you see him posted up with the rappers and the jury, like, oh, that's eyeballs, that's attention, that's people that's going to buy pay-per-views, that's people going to buy tickets. You see the bravado for Mayweather and stuff. So where's the balance for a young boxer? You know what I'm saying? He got to sell himself as a personality, but you still want him to be disciplined in the craft, and like you said, not overexpose himself.
Right. The thing is that you don't have to go past the point. You could be there. You could take some shots, Fat Joe, but you don't have to go. I know this. This is how you know you're getting older. You see these things happen, and you shake your head and say, "No, no, 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 no." That's how you know you're getting older. And I'm like, we had to slow some of that down.
You talk to him about it?
Yeah, I have. He'll post something. If I don't like it, I hit him. I'll be like, "Sobrino, and he'd be like, "Okay, Uncle, sorry." He knows how to get to me with the sorries. He'll flash me with a big smile, say, "Uncle, so I'm sorry. I'll take it down," and he does. But in the dichotomy of attention, it's not like Edgar is not like some of the guys that I had coming up. I had some rough dudes coming up. Edgar's not a rough kid. He's a good kid. Yeah. Rough kids are different. I had some kids that unfortunately ended up being on the wrong side of the street. They ended up, and you try your best to make sure they don't. You fight so hard with it. But they ended up doing things that got them locked up and, all sorts of nonsense. So he's not built like that. And I don't want a situation to ever occur where he's stuck in the middle of something and he's not built like that. So that's why I always tell him, slow it down.
Slow it down.
Yeah.
Slow it down. I feel for those youngsters because there's so many athletes with great talent and they don't get their just due until they start being a mouthpiece. You know what I'm saying? When you see guys like Jake Paul be rewarded, it's like, damn, they stuck between a rock and a hard place.
True.
You know, and they got to play that game. But salute to Edgar. You mentioned that it came out in October that he tore his bicep after that fight. Right. He was scheduled to fight in December, but of course he had a surgery and that pushed him back. When's the next time we look forward to seeing Edgar Balaga in the ring?
Well, he has a schedule of March and then June. I guess we have to see how March works out because the torn bicep injury takes time to heal. And the last thing you want to do is rush it. So I think we have to see how his healing and his recovery develop, and then we can sort of go from there. So I'm thinking the earliest, realistically, will be sometime in June for the Puerto Rican Day festivities, and sort of go from there.
All right, that's big time. That's big time. Uncle Dre, I had a guest on this show, a great friend of mine, Cesar Raymond Francis.
My sobrino, I see you wearing this shirt.
I got it, representing Raymond Francis. He came on this show and he said, Uncle Dre, he put the battery in the back of the sport of boxing and told them to pay attention to me. Can you tell us about the first time you became aware of Raymond as a boxer?
Well, Chico,
his trainer and cousin?
He had told me, he said, listen, he said, Theo, this is your sobrino, and he can fight.
When was this?
This was a long time ago, back when he was an amateur. And I took notice of him. And, you know, of course, we all are of Panamanian heritage, so our unity is a lot stronger than most. Mm-hmm. And I saw him, and I said, wow, you know, he's long, he's Tommy Hernish in stature, long reach, big right hand. And as he started progressing and went pro, I said, hey, listen, I need to help him and you in guiding his career. And I watched him fight. I saw the special capabilities. And I said, this young man very well could be a world champion. Wow. And that's what road we're on right now.
The last time we seen him fight, he was in the Barclays Center.
Excellent performance.
Excellent performance, says Uncle Dre.
Excellent performance. Let me tell you about that night. I'm his advisor, and they kicked me out the corner. They kicked me out the corner.
Who?
The security.
Okay.
At the Barclays. So I was standing outside, but they let me stay in a place where my vocal capability was enhanced. Right. And I was talking to my nephew and reeling the moments through, and he broke this kid down, and he was the underdog in this fight.
He sure was.
He was the underdog. And I said, listen, let's do this one, and we're going to be on our way.
On your way. Uncle Dre, I was in the crowd, excited. He beat a fighter that was previously undefeated.
Right.
Had more experience than him.
Right.
We in the Barclays Center. That night, I'm thinking like, yo, dog, they got to back up the Brinks truck for this young man. Uncle Dre, how would you describe where Cesar Raymond Francis is in his career? Because also, if my understanding, he's not really signed to a promotion.
Well, we you know, not to bring up anything negative, but we're working on some things now, and I know where I need to take him, and I'm looking forward to that. He has a lot of the attributes that are going to make him that star. He graduated from Morgan State University with his cousin, my daughter. She graduated with her master's, and I think Cesar was on his way. I'm so proud of them for that alone. Forget everything else. Right. He's bilingual. He is a good-looking kid, and those are the selling points. that you can really get a young athlete to make that money, to get that notoriety, to rise to the occasion. And he possesses all of those. And he has a great personality.
He does.
You know, he's not pompous, he's not over the top. He knows exactly what to say and how to say it.
Right.
Smooth character.
Yeah.
Like Carmel. Put it in the pot. Nice and smooth.
Right.
So I'm looking, it's going to be a great journey to get him to the top. I can't wait. And we're just going to keep plugging along until we get there.
You know, he just had like the biggest fight of his career, and like, is he a free agent? Like, he's not Showtime, he's not PBC. Like,
Right.
is that something that's like a feather in his cap right now, to have the biggest moment and be a free agent?
That is the goal. And I told him that. I said, the night we fought in the Barclays, I said, you got to shine tonight. Shine so you can make my job easier to make you a superstar and get you aligned with a major promotional entity. And that's what he did. He held up his bargain. He held up his side of the bargain. So it's my turn to hold up mine and get him with a major. I'm not looking to have Cesar in the middle. Now the game has changed with COVID. The promoters that aren't the promoters are riding a lot of tails to the big guys. So that's like a promoter just being a middleman.
Right.
And that's not the game. We're not cutting this pie in 15 pieces. If anything, we're gonna have 2 pies. That's one for the big promoter and one for Cesar.
Right.
That's it. That's how we're doing it. No more middlemen. We're beyond that point. And we're going to keep it going until we get him in there and fighting for a world title.
Gotcha. Do you know when we could look forward to seeing him in the ring again?
We're working on something now. It might be March 3rd. We're putting together a show. My partner, Eris David, is putting a show on at Melrose in Queens. And we're going to, of course, show the world the Havoc advisory talent. And, of course, Sobrino is part of that. Cesar is one of the team members, and we're looking to showcase all of them that night.
Sounds good. Sounds good. One of the biggest fighters in the sport, Terence Crawford, just stepped away from Top Rank.
Right.
He, after his bout with, Sean Porter?
Porter.
He was on the stage sitting next to the CEO of Top Rank, Bob Arum. He said, yeah, my time with Top Rank is coming to an end. What's that mean for the sport? What do you think about that move?
Well, I tell you, quite honestly, the way the business of boxing is, it's very secular. PBC has all the welterweights in the world. I mean, all of them. And if you want to be, and he is one of the best fighters on the planet that happens to be a welterweight, if you want to get that work, you got to be in the same camp with these guys that'll give you that work. And quite honestly, that places PBC with Al Heyman.
Is Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence the biggest fight boxing can put together right now?
It's definitely one of them, yes. It's one of them. The timelines on this are very important to keep an eye on. You have a young man that's coming like a freight train in the welterweight division. His name is Jared Boots Ennis. Okay. One of my favorites. The Ennis family, it comes from boxing. Father, the brothers, but by far, Boots is extraordinary talent. Extraordinary. I see him being that guy in the future in several weight classes. The water is still very, very exciting with the Errol Spences and you have the old guard that's still boxing against each other. We need to see Errol and Crawford go at it.
Right.
We need to see that because these you have two undefeated fighters at the top of the game. We need to see that happen. The young guys, they're coming quick, and the old school is getting older. So there's going to be times, but at this point, the reason why I brought that up was I don't think Crawford should be concentrating on these young kids. I think he should concentrate on the guys that are there that will cement his legacy and ensure him being enshrined in the Hall of Fame.
For sure.
So he needs to concentrate on the guys from his generation.
Yes.
Without a doubt. Let the young boys come up and so on and so forth. The reason why I said that once again was because they're making mention of that bout. And I would be like, no, I'm not. I'm going to fight these guys here.
Make it mention of which bout? Crawford
And Boots.
Okay. But he should be looking up at Spence.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. As a trainer, you don't sign to any of the promotions. Your dealings is with the boxers, correct?
Right. My dealings are with the boxers, and if I'm advising, then I'm directing them towards the promoters. Yeah.
Because boxing always get a bad shake because of how the promotions break down. Certain fighters are with certain promotion, and you don't always see the best fights would be between fighters from different promotions. But because of the business, we don't always see that.
Which is a major problem. Major problem. If you don't create the best bouts possible, how are you going to entertain and keep the fight fans happy?
For sure.
You don't keep them happy, then we have nothing. And these promoters, I mean, we've seen a little bit. You know, Crawford, Sean Porter, where the lines get crossed and then they make a bout that's very entertaining and worthy of the communication about it.
Right.
But it has to happen far more consistently and constantly. It can't be, okay, this one is this. You don't have enough firepower on each of those points to make all these big events happen.
Right.
Unless, of course, PBC has all the welterweights. So that's very exciting. They have a lot of the super middleweights, too.
Is there anything that can be done from the fighter standpoint or the trainer standpoint? Because UFC, they say that sport is healthy because there's one league. Dana White makes sure all the best fighters fight each other, but that's not taking place in boxing, and that's been the story for years and decades. But is there anything that any of us can do to change that?
Oh yeah, we can make noise about it. Fighters are the ones that people have to realize. We work for the fighters.
Yeah.
I don't know how it became convoluted. The thought process is that the fighters work for the promoters and the no. We work for the fighters. I work for my clients. My clients don't work for me. So with that being said, if a fighter says, I want this fight to happen, it should happen. If they say, I'm not going to fight anybody else but this person, it will happen. They have to stand strong. They have to be vigilant and let them know, you work for me. Yes, I don't care what you gave me. You gave me that because of my capability. I am the boss. The fighters are the boss. The boss. That's right. I said it.
Yes, sir.
The fighters are the boss. Treat them like that. Let them know you are the boss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They need to stand up.
That's right.
From Uncle Dre says so.
That's right. That's right.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. And the reason I asked you is because not only are you a great trainer, Uncle Dre, you're an entrepreneur.
Yes, yes.
You know, you started the Havoc clothing line.
Yes, I did.
And I was reading, you started it out of necessity, like your fighters needed some uniforms and you got to a sewing kit?
Well, let me tell you I'm going to tell you how it really started. We're going to tell you the real deal story. I was training Monty Barrett, the heavyweight contender, and his aunt made him some boxing trunks. All right, they were nothing special, but they were his. So I would always take them with me after he fought because, you know, he'd throw them in the bag, it'd be wrinkled up, and I'm OCD about that. Keep your stuff looking good. So I hung them in the closet, and a shelf in the closet fell. and ripped the shorts, like right down the middle. I was like, oh boy. I said, man, this kid gonna have a heart attack because he was in love with those shorts. So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna have to make him something. He didn't know, you know. Right. So when I went to the gym, I said, I got good news and bad news. He said, well, what's the bad news? I said, your shorts got damaged in the closet. The shelf fell and ripped them in half. He went, oh my God, Dre, what happened? I made us. I said, don't worry, chill, baby. I'm gonna make you some. So he went from yelling and screaming to laughing. He said, what do you mean you gonna make? I said, I'm gonna sew you some. He said, you don't know how to sew. Damn, Dre, I ain't got no shirt. I said, chill. I'm gonna bring some tomorrow. So I hadn't sewed in a while. And I really hadn't sewed in a while. So I said, let me make this boy some shorts. I pulled the sewing machine out. My grandmother gave me a sewing machine, an old Singer. What a beast of a So I got my oil out. I oiled it up. I let it run for about 2 hours, just running. And I said, okay, it's ready. I cleaned it up. I had material because my grandmother was an accomplished seamstress. And I took some pieces. I took some fringing, all little pieces, this, that, and other thing. And I put those shorts together. And they were fire. I mean, I could sew, so they were fire. So I took him to the gym, and he couldn't believe it. He said, you didn't make these. Somebody made these. I said, Monty, why would I bring these shorts? I said, just put them on and shut up. So he put the shorts on, and that's how it started.
That's how it started.
I got it started. We started going out. People started asking about his trunks, and he said, oh, my trainer made them. You know, ask him, he'll make you some. And the rest is history.
It started to blossom, not just your fighters. I seen like Gervonta take Davis with Havoc. Uncle Dre, tell me about a time you saw your logo somewhere and you thought, wow, man, I can't believe it's there.
Out there, David, what's his last name? He was an Olympian in 1996.
Okay.
He had a sleepy eye.
Okay.
I forget his name. He was the first one because he was an Olympian and he was on HBO. And the Goosens came to me and said, David really wants to wear your gear. So I said, all right, and I hooked him up a mean piece.
Nice.
That's the first time Havoc was on the back of it. And everybody was like, oh, we saw that. Oh, that's dope. And that was it.
Gotcha.
That's all. It kept bouncing from there.
How did it get to Tank Davis, Gervonta Tank Davis?
Well, Tank in Africa, Richard Hitchens, they're really good friends. And he's come to the gym, and he's a funny kid. We used to have a bunch of laughs, and he was like, yo, Uncle, why you ain't gonna make me a piece? Everybody make it. I said, I'm gonna hook you up. So we got together, and I think this was 3 fights ago. And I put the piece together for him, and he went ballistic. He was like, this is fire. And that was it. And I've been making his pieces ever since then. That's
dope. In 2010, you brought in a partner, Robert Diaz?
Yes, I did.
Why'd you decide to connect with him?
Well, a friend of mine's, it started with promotions. He came in as a promoter, and it was Havoc Promotions. As you know, me as a trainer and a manager, I can't be a part of the promotion. So I was an outside entity. But we started working on a promotion together, and at a point in time, we started doing some of the clothing together. And it didn't work out, and we had to.
You took him to court. You got what's it called?
Yeah, we had to. We had to. There were things that happened, and most importantly was the fact that my logo, which everybody knows belonged to me, was trademarked, and it wasn't trademarked by me. And if it was, it would have been a group trademark, and it wasn't. So that's when things didn't go well, and we had to separate and break it down.
So he's brought out he's no longer part of the company.
No.
Havoc is yours.
Yes.
And can we look forward to some more pieces?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Definitely. Going even harder than before. Okay. Even harder. So for those who didn't know, Havoc is my baby. It's always been my baby, and that's basically the bottom line with it. Nobody else did what was necessary to bring Havoc to fruition. It was me, and I'm very proud of it.
That's what's up, man. Entrepreneurial spirit, even while doing the training. Why do fighters come to train with Uncle Dre? And I'm thinking about like somebody like Edgar Balaga. He had a successful run. Like, what was his record before he came to train with you?
I think he was 14-0.
He was 14-0, 14 first-round knockouts.
Right.
Why do fighters come to train with Uncle Dre, Andre Rozier?
Well, first they know for a fact that I'm a student of this game. Mm-hmm. When we train to win. I don't like mistakes. I've been to, quote unquote, the mountaintop several times. I know what it is. That's just the bottom line. And they know that a lot of people want to be in a position with somebody that cares. Mm-hmm. And as the word on the street, big time is, Uncle Dre care about you. Mm-hmm. That's why it's Uncle Dre. Mm-hmm. So they know that, and it makes them feel comfortable and confident. So that's why they come to the gym and say, Uncle Dre, can I work with you?
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I thought that was amazing that somebody that had tremendous success, they came to see you. They must see that you can add value to their career. I was reading an article, and they were crediting you with your, I guess, precise critique during a match.
Right. I think that's one of my strongest points.
Like even in a fire, right?
Right. The communication factor. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't understand that it takes more than, quote unquote, being a trainer to run the corner. Mm-hmm. Communication is key. And you have to know how to communicate to these fighters. A lot of people just don't know what to say when that moment comes. And directing the traffic is really important. You have to know what you're going to be dealing with, how it's going to work out, where you might have to lead this athlete. And sometimes when the water gets rough, you got to know how to get that rudder going the right way so you don't crash into the rocks. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm a very good communicator, and they understand what I'm trying to express to them to lead them through the battle.
Mm-hmm. Last time I saw you work in the corner was the Lomachenko fight versus your fighter, Richard Commey.
Yes.
Interesting fight, to say the least. There was one point when Vasiliy Lomachencko was controlling the fight, and he turns to the corner and he's like yelling at y'all to stop the fight because he doesn't want to continue what he's doing to Richard Commey. Uncle Dre, my heart was in my chest because you faced with this situation. Did you think it was genuine from Lomachenko, or was he showing up your fighter? Like, what was going through your mind at this moment? He's yelling at you, yo, stop the fight because I don't want to continue what I'm doing.
Well, my thing was this. Whenever anybody does something like that, you trying to make an early exit. Mm-hmm. Any way you can. And I don't think it was like him being bravado about it, but the fact that, you know what, he got hit in the fight.
Lomachenko did. By Comey.
And there were moments when Richard hit him with some shots that I saw that little buckle. Mm-hmm. And in his mind, let me stop this before this kid actually lines one up on me, and that's it. So I thought it was fan fodder if anything else. And he's like, yo, please, let's stop this now so I don't have to deal with it any much more than I am right at this moment.
Uncle Dre, that's a lot of calculations that you have to do in a short amount of time.
All day long. You got to be ready for it.
Because from the outside, some people could say, well, maybe you could have stopped it because your fighter been getting beat up, but then you got to take in consideration his pride, like to have it stopped in that manner. And as you said, you felt like your fighter still has some life.
Right. You got to know your athlete. You got to, and the moment too. As soon as Lomachenko did that, I was like, that was the food that I needed to feed to Richard. The food, and it was a perfect moment. I said, you see what's going on? I said, he feels that he's got the upper hand big time now. I said, you want me to stop this? He said, no, Uncle, no. I said, you better go out there and light it up.
Yeah.
Let's go put that pressure on him. I said, do not have a tender moment in that ring. I said, you got hands of steel. Start using them. I said, you hit him everywhere you can. Let him know that you're there. And that was it.
And your fighter finished the fight.
He certainly did. He picked it up at certain points too.
He did. What do you think Comey could have done differently in that fight? Because I remember at the end, sometimes trainers give perfunctory remarks like, yo, we tried, we were here. You were like, nah, I wanted him to do X, Y, and Z.
Right, no. I mean, we had worked on things and that Richard didn't do. I told Richard, I said, keep your hands up. He dropped his hands a lot in the fight. More so than I expected him to against the southpaw, and dropping his left hand was a major mistake. And I told him, just keep circling to your left. I said, circle like a shark. Keep circling and touching, and digging them downstairs to the body. And use your jab. So those were things that he didn't do. And if he would have, even when he got knocked down, I made a very important issue about that. Lomachenko was laying on his chest. He hit Richard with a left hand. His hands were on his hips, and he was standing straight up. What do you think is going to happen? He ate the full brunt of the shot, and he went down. And I was sitting there, I'll never forget, I'm like, I told him to keep his hands up and close. Because he's quick. Lomo is quick. And you can't wait for him to do things like that because he will. So those were some of the things that were running through my mind. I always analyze the fight as it's going on, and then I analyze it afterwards so I can point out the mistakes that you might have made so we don't make those mistakes again.
Right.
So those were some of the things that I noticed that he didn't listen to. I kept yelling and screaming. Actually, I heard it when I watched it again. I was like, damn, that's me. Richard, keep your hands up.
Yeah.
Don't stand there waiting for him. Don't take pictures. Right. But once again, it was going to be tough. Richard is not as kinetic as Lomachenko is. Lomachenko is very kinetic. And Richard had to really bully him, and he didn't. He took that Mr. Nice stance too far. Right. So he should have been mean, and then you come back to nice. But those are things we have to work on.
The boxing and the technical aspect of it is one thing, but then you got the spectacle and the stage of the sport of boxing. And I wonder if sometimes the fighters are always prepared for that. Comey lost that fight to Lomachenko. That was December in Madison Square Garden. 2 years to the day, he lost to Timofimo Lopez in the Garden. Somebody like Comey is not from this country.
Right.
Was the stage too big for him? Is that a factor? And as a trainer, how do you help prepare your fighters for not just the technical aspect, but the spectacle, what to expect walking in Madison Square Garden?
Well, what you do is really you talk it out. Communication, once again, is very important. Mm-hmm. These are the moments that will make or break you. Mm-hmm. So you have to rise to the occasion. And this is why I'm the person that I am when we go in that ring. I exude confidence when we're in the ring. Mm-hmm. I've came up with my little flying fist just to give them a little bit more energy about it. Those are things. We're here. Let's go. Let's have a good time with it. Let's get this win. So those are things you have to just keep feeding them and letting them process this so that they know that when the moment arises, you don't fall short. You don't start folding up like a house of cards.
What's next for Richard Commey?
He's currently in Ghana. He went to see his family, and he'll be back sometime around the end of January. And we'll start getting ready. We have another fight with the contract that we had set up, so we're going to get ready for that and just keep teaching them. Just keep teaching them. Comey came from a kickboxing background. And a lot of things that he does are quite reminiscent of what he did when he was kickboxing. You know, kickboxers sit way up in the air because they live up with their feet.
Yes.
And on the average, like the best kickboxing champion that I know of is my big brother, Yoel Judah.
Okay.
Used to watch him. Honestly, I used to watch him on YouTube, and the way, I mean, he was magnificent when it came to bringing in the two genres together, boxing and kickboxing. His hands were fast, his movement was precise, and then his kicks were like dangerous, almost like kung fu movies. He flying kicks, roundhouse kicks. Oh, I mean, just amazing. If you guys take note of this, take a little look at Yoel Judah on YouTube when he was, I think he was a 5 or 6 time world kickboxing champion. Unbelievable. But he had more finesse. I think it came from being in the gym, in a boxing gym. And we're behind schedule with Richie because that's what
he's coming from kickboxing.
Right, he's coming from kickboxing. And like I told him, I said, Ike Corte, Azuma Nelson, the Kaladi brothers, those are all guys that came from Ghana, became world champions. You became a world champion also, but you have to maintain it. You have to maintain it. And to do that, you have to correct the mistakes. Practice. Correct the mistakes. And like I said, Richie's one of my favorites. I love him to death. He calls me Uncle Dre. I'm more like a father figure to him than anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure he becomes a 2-time world champion.
That's good, because it was kind of emotional at the end of that fight. You know, he was kind of getting worked up after that loss, understandably so. But when you think about maybe what's the next step for his career, I was wondering if that's the end.
Well, I'm going to give him, he said something very, very poignant. Keith Conley's father, Pops Conley.
Yeah.
He has some health issues. And Richard said he wanted to win that fight for Pops because Pops always gave him great words. And he said, so you know what I'm going to do? I said, my next fight, I couldn't really give him that fight with Lomo because I didn't win. Right. He said, but my next fight, I'm going to win. I'm going to dedicate it to Pops. That's going to be the one that I give to him because I let him down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing young man. Really amazing.
Wow. Yoel Judah, that's Zab Judah's dad, right?
Yes.
Brooklyn.
All day long. All day long. Brownsville in the house.
Uncle Dre, when did you start being in the gym every day? Like, what year would you say?
Oh, shucks. Wow, that's a long time ago. Yeah, about 38 years ago.
80s?
Yeah.
So, Uncle Dre, tell me about the height of it. Brownsville, Brooklyn boxing. That's Zab Judah. That's Mike Tyson.
Shannon Briggs.
Riddick Bowe.
Way back when Eddie Mustafa Muhammad.
You ever cross paths with Mike Tyson?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
What's your best Mike story?
We were at the Turning Stone Casino, right? So Mike is like, hey, Dre, what's up? I said, nothing. He said, you hanging out with me today. So I said, Mike, I got something. He said, I see you hanging out with me today. We went everywhere. People was like, who is that? Like, who is that with Mike? And everywhere we had all together, all even to the night of the fights, because there was a Hall of Fame show that night. And Mike was like, "Yo, Dre, you sitting right here." So I was like, "Mike, I want to move around a little bit." Let me. It's like that was the day that we just locked it in, and we was all over the place.
That's what's up. And like, you knew Mike from just training in the gyms?
Well, I'd actually met him way back when. He didn't remember though. Because Mike used to be in Brownsville running rampant.
Crazy.
Yeah, same. I didn't know him then. I told him, I said, Mike, I said, I wish I'd have known you then. He said, why? I said, I'd have slapped you upside your head. Yeah. He said, nah, I'd have knocked you out. I said, you'd have tried. I said, you think I'd have picked up a stick and hit you in your nugget. Yeah. But, he that's when I met him, and then we caught up in Vegas. And then we, whenever we see each other, we sort of sit down and rap a little bit and take it from there.
That's what's up. Uncle Dre, what happened to the great American heavyweight?
Ooh.
That used to be our division.
It used to be. Let me tell you what happened. We fell behind, and not in the heavyweight class either. In several weight classes, we fell behind because we got comfortable. Fighters started thinking that they had it all under control and didn't work as hard. Now, it's a level up each time. There have been ethnicities that have came through boxing to better themselves. Remember back in the days, it was the Italians, the Irish, so on and so forth. Then, of course, the brothers, and now you have the Europeans seeing that if I go to America, I can make a lot of money. And they have a diligent work ethic. I know. We have several Ukrainians in the gym, and they work hard. No ifs or whats about it. You tell them to work, they're going to work until they can't work anymore. We lost our way with that. Now, we had to get back to doing what we used to do, is really appreciating the hard work that'll get you to the top. That's why that takes us back to the glorification of, I'm out there and I'm doing this. That's not what it's about. It's about getting to the top of the mountain and staying there. And the only way to do that is to work hard and pay respect to your diligence of boxing. That's how you get there, and that's how you stay there. So we need to get back on track, and we need to get some kids that start a little bit younger. A lot of these heavyweights, they come out of football and basketball. Oh, God, shaking my head.
They don't have the fundamentals. They don't have that foundation.
No, not at all. So, and that's a major problem.
Yeah, because they say, like, if you want to look at the what all American heavyweights are, look at the basketball court. LeBron James, or football field, Aaron Donald.
Exactly.
So I wanted to get your take on.
That's for sure. We and also those other sports are a bit easier to deal with than boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could run the gridiron and make $100 million. You know what I have to do to make $100 million in the boxing ring? Yeah. You got to be a bad mofo. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uncle Dre, sometimes you lose fighters too.
Yeah.
Right. Recently, Marcus Brown left your camp and went to fight with Errol Spence. I forget his trainer's name.
Derek James.
Yes. Why do you think he decided to move on?
Well, I mean, there was situations. Marcus moved to Texas, and I think from what I do know, his head trainer Gary, they could have worked it out, but I don't know what happened. I really can't even tell you. But it didn't work out like it was supposed to. But Marcus did ask me, could I come out? He said, if I need you, would you come out? So I said, yeah, I would.
And did you guys connect?
Well, I made his uniform,
okay.
So we were constantly talking, and I didn't go out, and maybe I should have went out because this was an entirely new environment, new team. It's not the time for that to take place. On a fight of this magnitude is right in front of you.
He just lost recently to Peter Beterbiev.
Yes.
His first fight away from your camp.
Yes.
As a trainer, I'm sure that's a tough position, or former trainer. I'm sure you're not wishing bad on him.
Never.
But if you are the trainer that we think you are, a fighter shouldn't leave your camp and then blossom.
Well, no.
Right? like his
Hey nephew, that's a tough one.
that's a tough one. Like, his loss validates your value.
Right, exactly. Unfortunately, you don't want them that to happen. And similar to Danny. Mm-hmm. When Danny left for the Chavez fight and then the Rosado fight, that was not Danny at all. Mm-hmm. Not nowhere near. Danny should have destroyed both of those guys. Mm-hmm. Literally, he should have got both of them out of there. I mean, well, Chavez gave up. But he should have got Rosado out of there, too. Mm-hmm. And we had a split decision in there. Listen, you know what it is.
Yeah.
That'll tell you right there. You got to stay on your pill.
Did you talk to Brown after his loss to Beterbiev?
Yeah. I asked him if he was all right. And he said, yeah, I'm okay. And I didn't want to get into the aesthetics of it because it was what it was. And unfortunately, you got to know these kids. Everybody can proclaim it, but I'll be the first to say it. It's hard to lead someone through the danger zone, and you haven't been there with them. It's difficult, as we see. It was difficult. Marcus is a unique entity, as most fighters are, and you have to know what to do and when to do it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that experience with him, there's no way to know how. And I think that's what took place. Because Marcus was, as I was viewing what was going on, if they would have stopped that fight in that 6th round, Marcus would have been the winner because he was ahead at that point. When Beterbiev heard that they might stop the fight, he picked it up. Marcus started deteriorating.
Wow. Beterbiev's corner told him that, yo, you're losing this fight?
No, well, that was the actual scores at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus was ahead. Mm-hmm. So when the doctor came in and he viewed the cut, he said, I'm going to give you one more round. At that point, if I was there and I saw that, I would have said, Marcus, they're about to stop this fight. Kill that cut.
Wow.
I mean, kill it. Make it bleed like a dam that's burst. Make it bleed, and they're gonna stop the fight. The doctor said, one more round.
Yeah.
It's so important. And you could see that interaction going on. So if I was across the ring from it, I'd be like, oh, they're about to stop this fight.
Yeah.
Turn it up as much as you can.
Wow.
And he would have won. He would have won. That's just the simple facts of it.
Wow.
So the communication.
Communication is key.
Yes, it is.
Uncle Dre, another one of your fighters. You're training Pablo Pretty Boy Valdez.
Well, I don't work with him directly, but yeah, he's in the same circle.
He's in the circle.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Pablo. I do know this is a brother that spent about 7-8 years in prison.
Right.
What impact do you think that has on the man and the boxer that you see in the gym?
Well, we have a plan. Pablo is he's going to be 38.
Mm-hmm. Advanced age for boxing.
Yes, exactly. And he just started up. He always wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. But I gave him a time frame. He's going to have 10 fights, fight for the New York State title, and that'll be it. Mm-hmm. I don't want him getting dreams of grandeur. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I want him to know you're doing very well, but you're not going to the point where somebody's going to be able to get in there and hurt you. Mm-hmm. That's not happening. So our goal is 10 fights and win the New York State title, and then he can retire.
Wow. How many fights has he had so far?
6.
6?
4 to go.
6-0.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys got a plan. You got a blueprint.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, it's almost like, I call it the Jake Paul syndrome.
Yeah.
Jake Paul will never fight for a world title. We all know that. If he does, he'll get killed. That's just the bottom line. But he has a plan. He's making some serious money, taking the YouTube genre to the next level and capitalizing off his fan base, and that's it. Will we see him in a world title fight? If we do, that'll be the day that there needs to be 4 or 5 ambulances waiting at ringside for him.
Wow. Yeah, Canelo will chop him up.
Oh,
Any of the professional fighters at that level.
Anyone.
Any one of them will chop them up. Who else you got over there? Curtis Stevens.
Curtis Stevens. Yeah, we're giving him one more shot. He's been working very hard.
One more shot. He had some tough losses in his career.
Right.
And he was kind of out for a while.
Yes, he was. It's just a shame that Curtis is working so hard now is what he should have been doing then. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the end-all, be-all to fighters. They wait to the point where it's very difficult to get to where you wanted to be because you wasted that time doing what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So he's been working hard, and we're going to give him one more shot, and it's up to him to do what needs to be done. Why he knows how to fight, but you can't honor two gods. Either you're going to be a fighter or you're going to be a party boy. Mm. So you can't do both. You can't. It's gonna. I don't care how far you get. You're gonna collapse and destroy what you have created eventually. Mm-hmm. So that's a lesson to all these young fighters out there. If you're gonna fight, if you want to be a fighter, a boxer, live your life like a fighter, like a boxer. Train hard. You can't party. You can't be smoking, drinking, hustling. Boning like crazy. It just won't work. Yeah. You have to live your life like a fighter. That's the real talk about it.
Yeah. That's got to be a frustrating place for a trainer. It's like being a parent. You want to prevent your kids, your subordinates, your team members from making them mistakes. But at some point, they just got to learn on their own, and you got to sit back and watch them. Squander away opportunities.
Which is true. But the thing that I always say is that this game is not like football, basketball, baseball. Mm-hmm. You can get hurt. Mm-hmm. We can get killed. You don't want to have – this is why I always express it. You don't want to have them learn that way, even though sometimes they end up doing it. But the message has to always be given. You can't live like this. Mm-hmm. You have to dedicate your life to what you're doing. And then look, the window is so small in boxing. If you get more than 15 years, you super lucky. For sure. Usually it's 5 to 10. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, give everything you can in that 5 to 10 time period, 5 to 10 year time period, so that you can say, I gave it my all, and do it right.
Yeah. Curtis is about my age. There was some guys from my neighborhood who were really good friends with him. Like, he was one of those dudes that, like, we would see in the neighborhood, and then he would be on television. Like he was a superstar. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I want to send a salute to Curtis. Like, a living legend. Like, he gave us a reason to be very proud. Right. You know what I'm saying? So when I saw him around the gym, when I came around with Cesar, I'm like, oh, snap, that's Curtis Stevens. You know what I'm saying? Right. I think he went to high school with some of my friends and stuff. But salute, man. Curtis returning back to the ring. Uncle Dre, we forget anything?
Listen, we have this show March 3rd at Melrose Ballroom in Queens, and it's going to be lit. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're not. This is going to be a little bit different. We don't have chairs. Everybody's going to be standing. We got the bars working. We got a room upstairs. It's the VIP room with its tables, its televisions up there for those who really don't want to be in the know of that. But it's going to be on fire. I mean, on fire. And if it wasn't as cold as I think it might be in March, we'd have opened the door because we have an outdoor terrace there that's off the chain. But it's going to be a fantastic night. We're looking forward to exploring and showcasing this new talent that we're working with. We have some great kids coming up, and come on out to that. Remember, Havoc Boxing Gear, Havoc Athletics. We are in the hurt business, and somebody gonna get hurt up in here. Wear the gear, represent. It's hot. You know what we do. The fighters are doing what they got to do. Havoc Advisory, One for All Promotions. Listen, it's going to be a fantastic 2022.
That's what's up, Uncle Dre. Where can people follow you, follow Havoc? You got some social media handles?
Yeah, I have actually, there's Havoc Trunks on Instagram. Okay. You have Andre Rozier on Facebook. Okay. I know that's old school, but
hey,
it is what
works.
it is. And, we always post information. We're getting ready to start a new website, Havoc Athletics and Activewear. It's going to be on fire. About 100 T-shirt designs up there, warm-up suits, underwear, socks, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be burning hot. And just in that gym, over there at Cops and Kids, East 34th Street.
Vanderveer, Brooklyn.
Exactly. Vanderveer. I remember walking by Vanderveer, I used to duck because they used to throw bottles at you.
Yeah.
And thank God it got better. But big shout out to Patty Russo, Sosa. They did a fantastic job over there at the gym. It's a wonderful place, and we're just trying to keep it growing.
All right. One of the best in the business, Andre Rozier, Uncle Dre. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, nephew. I appreciate it, and I had a fantastic time.
All right, brother. We out of here.